us. Alice, what are you doing this week to save America?
Well, yesterday I went down to Austin to testify against
Mm,
a piece of legislation that was passed in the last session. The State Board of Education was meeting to approve the state owned curriculum that has been developed by the Texas Education Agency, the TEA.
mhm.
And there were many of us that were fighting against HB 1605 that set up the framework and the funding for this state owned curriculum management system. And it was interesting yesterday because what you saw was the battle between values, beliefs, and behaviors. In
Mhm.
this curriculum, the way
Yes.
that the TEA got the right side of the aisle, the Republicans, the so-called conservative Republicans, on board with an online digital learning system is to say that they put in a couple of uh, Bible verses.
Mhm.
What we saw when the actual curriculum was released, that it was a little more than just Bible verses. And so, what the battle yesterday was, all of these people coming to say, hey, I'm a Christian, whatever denomination, and I don't agree with the state teaching my children about the Bible
Mm. Yeah.
because there's a lot of different interpretations, that just like we have a lot of different religions. There was a big force there, interestingly, of Jewish people, rabbis, people who were saying that the curriculum was anti-Semitic. Um, it's interesting because when we leave teachers, public school teachers, to interpret, that's a very different, that's a slippery slope that we're going down.
Mhm.
And so that was the battle, that was the predominant battle yesterday. But
Wow.
I was there to talk about the OER, the Open Education Resources. I've been warning about this technology for years, back when Obama set up a curated curriculum um, depository, if you will, owned by the federal government. And then the states, and Texas was leading the way back in 2017, to set up these open education resource technology programs. Interestingly, the concept of open education resource comes directly out of UNESCO.
Mm.
So, but then they're saying that the narrative is, oh, we had to put all this online digital learning up really quick because of COVID. And this is not your UNESCO OER, this is Texas OER.
Never let a
And
crisis go
built
to
by,
waste.
yes, built by Texans. And
Mhm.
there's those of us that have been in this battle for a long time. And I actually wrote about Obama back in 2016. And then I took video of Commissioner Mike Morath um, in 2018 talking about how the Texas legislature passed laws to provide the funding for open education resources, and Mike Morath was implementing it long before COVID.
Yeah.
So they think that we don't remember things.
Yeah.
And that's the benefit of those of us that have been in the battle for so long. We actually have the content created to expose what they're really doing. Unfortunately, Mike Morath is a smooth talker. I've been listening to him this morning testify in front of the State Board of Education, and he is very articulate. He's a young man. He's got young kids, and he sounds really good. But he's creating a curriculum management system to provide teachers with lessons, provide teachers with the curriculum to teach their classes. Mike Morath has no education background. He's
Wow.
not a former teacher. He was on a school board that tried to take over the school district. um, years ago. So he has no background in curriculum development. Listening to him this morning, it was so frustrating because I'm thinking this guy has no concept of what it's like for a teacher to create a lesson plan, yet he's pushing a software program that will control the teachers and how they teach in the classroom and what they teach in the classroom. It's interesting because, I know you had Mary Lowe and Lynn on. We've all been fighting against all of this. And whenever we expose something, they change it. So we were exposing that this was a technology program, that it was digital online learning, that it was dynamic, that it could be changed on a whim. So then they say, oh, no, this was created to be printed. So it's really pen and paper. It's just in PDF form, and the state will pay. We've developed the curriculum, yeah, but the state will pay to create binders of the curriculum so it can be pen and paper. It's such a deception of what this really is. And we have people buying into it on the right side of the aisle that I would normally be fighting hand in hand with, who are for this because it's got Bible stories in it.
Yeah.
It's
So
very scary.
I've been triggered by so many things you've said that I'd love to address, but you start off saying it's state owned. And so there's a lot of objections that a lot of people, especially you and a lot of your colleagues, have raised over the last many years. And it seems like they're just ticking away. They're trying to
Yes.
chisel away at them. And so you said state owned, but yet OER is tied to this UN agenda. But don't worry, Alice, it's state owned. So now we control it.
Yes.
You
It's the same exact tactic that they used with Common Core.
right.
It's the same tactic
It's
that they
state
used.
led. Jeb
It's
Bush
state
always, it's state
led.
led. Yeah.
Yes. And with this, it's district led, and the district doesn't have to use it. They can use any state SBOE approved curriculum as long as it aligns with the TEKS. Now, here's another thing that I brought up yesterday. They keep touting this, that it's 100% aligned with the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. Those are the TEKS, our state standards, state developed standards. I presented a document to the State Board of Education which clearly proved that our Texas standards are aligned 92% with the Common Core federal standards. The reason why they are is because we took federal funding in order to get the grant and the
little
federal
carrot.
endorsement. Yeah, we had to get our state-led Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills aligned to the Common Core. And so they'll say, oh, but there's elements of the Common Core that are good, foundational. So that's the Common Core that we have in it.
Yeah.
No, that actually our math TEKS, our Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, when they developed them, we had Dr. Jim Milgram, who is a mathematician at Stanford, who was appointed to validate the Common Core math standards. And he did not, because he said they were so bad. We had him come down and testify in front of the State Board of Education. And he testified that the TEKS, our standards, were actually developmentally worse than the Common Core. But yet they put them in place because the Common Core standards are data standards, just like our TEKS are data standards. They can assess the values, beliefs, and behaviors of students online. And I don't care if the one-to-one or if the curriculum can be printed, they're still collecting data on our children on the online management system. And people don't see the bigger picture. And that's why myself and so many others go down and try to expose what they're actually doing.
Whose values, beliefs, and behaviors?
Exactly. Exactly.
Instead of
And that
reading, writing,
Mhm.
arithmetic, it's values, beliefs, and behaviors. And so they throw a little carrot out there for the religious right. Hey, we got some Bible stories in there. It'll be values, beliefs, behaviors based on the Bible. So you guys should be on board. Instead of asking, they put in the framework now so they could
Right.
get you in, get you accepting it. And then down the road, God forbid, Texas turns purple, Texas turns blue. Now they've got the framework to change it to somebody else's values, beliefs, and behaviors, and they got you.
They got us. They
Hmm.
got us. That's people just don't realize this. If you don't know the history, if you
Yeah.
don't know how we got here and how they were able to implement the Common Core national standards, and by the way, they were led by Republicans and Democrats alike. You
Hmm.
had Obama and you had Clinton and you had the Bushes. And so it's so deceptive to think that a curriculum management system, an online technology that originally they called it OER, then they called it Texas OER,
Right.
then they called it Amplify. Amplify was actually the no bid contract that the commissioner executed with a company, a third party company, to develop curriculum. And when we exposed the pornography, the values, beliefs, and behaviors in it that were so bad,
Hmm.
then they changed it and they said they were able to modify it because it's dynamic, it's an online curriculum.
Yeah.
So then they said, oh no, this is Texas Amplify.
Yeah.
It's not the original. And now they renamed it again. And this is what I asked when I testified yesterday. Why do we keep renaming this? Now it's Bluebonnet Texas curriculum.
Wow.
It's amazing.
So when you dig back, and I'm sure that there was things in the 90s and the 80s and the 70s and all of this, but in my political history, No Child Left Behind, the Bushes, they
Yes.
were pushing all that. And so that is where, because on the right, well, it's George W. Bush. He's, from Texas, and it's No Child Left Behind. What a great concept. But what we ended up doing in that is we accepted the premise that from the federal government, they should have some sort of say to roll out something from the federal government in education. And when you look at the Constitution, it's not in there. It's got to be state led. But that's what happened. We accepted the
Right.
premise. The federal government can have some sort of say, some sort of thing, some sort of whatever. And so a few years later, Obama does his Common Core because we accepted the premise that the federal government can be involved. And now it's like every administration looks at what the previous administration did as a floor, not a ceiling. They just add on to it, keep building, as opposed to looking at it as a restriction.
And to your point, what No Child Left Behind did is it's if we're going to leave no child behind, we've got to test them and make sure we're not leaving them
Right,
behind. So
right.
we set up 50 separate national database systems who started collecting data on our children.
Hmm.
And then they passed bills to make all of those 50 database systems interoperable.
Hmm.
So it's if you look at the federal and state laws that have been passed over the last 50 years to
Yeah.
set up the system of control, it's very clear to see what they're doing.
It doesn't take too wild of an imagination to see where this goes. If history
Right.
tells us one thing, which people who are awake, it tells us a lot, and you look at the trend line on where it's not going in a good place. But what's so hard for you and for your colleagues is that you are so aware of it that it's natural for you to say they're collecting data. There's a bunch of third parties out there making money off of that data. Who is buying the data? Is there any sort of lobbying money that's trying to steer the
Yes.
values, beliefs, and behaviors to where they can get in front of the curriculum to produce the right kind of people based on the data? And if you go too far in that obvious trend line, people will call you crazy.
Yeah. I have been called a lot of things.
Yeah.
And, you know, My conspiracy theories are being proven correct
Yeah.
over and over and over again. So
Yeah.
I am a conspiracy theorist. They are conspiring against us.
Completely. And a lot of them. And it's this we used to think, many people still do actually, but a lot of people used to think that you drop your kid off at school, you pick them up later, or the bus brings them home, and you just assume they're doing the right thing for your kid.
Right.
You just assume it.
You assume it. Yeah. And
And
and the thing is, the teachers are the scapegoat. They say, "Oh, we have all these woke teachers. We've got all these." Well, they open the door for whoever's values, beliefs, and behaviors to walk in. And
mhm,
so, when your curriculum is is using learning theories and teaching strategies to modify a child's behavior, and
mhm,
you're using and you embed in that the national sex education standards
yep,
that were developed by Planned Parenthood, it's no wonder why you have teachers doing crazy things.
yeah,
Their behaviors are being molded as well. And your veteran teachers who actually know how to teach reading, writing, math, and history are being weeded out.
yes,
They don't want people to remember institutional memory of what our education system used to be like when it was about reading, writing, math, and history. Because if you
right,
know history and you know how to read it,
yes,
you can have freedom and liberty.
right,
And I always say when I hear these people pushing, they've got the Bible, you know, as a Christian mom, I believe that it's our call to propose our faith, not impose our faith.
right,
And that's what this is. It is a group of people who have a lot of money, who have an agenda to impose their faith right along with the people like Bill Gates and all these other people um, on the other side who are really evil
right.
people.
Yeah, I don't really have as big of an issue, and I've heard how they've talked about they're bringing the Bible back into school, into the classroom, which I think
Mhm.
is wonderful. And but the way a lot of people have talked about it is because there's so many Bible stories that teach right from wrong. It's about
Right.
it is behavior, but
Yes.
there's a
Yes.
lot of there is a lot of history to be had, a lot of history to be
Yes.
learned, but also there's like good examples of how you should behave and react. And so and I don't think that it's bringing the Bible in the classroom is about teaching faith. It's not having all the kids come to Christ. I mean, I barely trust very many priests and pastors to interpret that Bible for me. I certainly like I think our today's teachers are not equipped to take the
Right.
Bible and to then teach faith. I wouldn't, but if they are reading the story, here's a historical, this actually happened. Here's
Right.
archaeological stuff that proves it. That's great. Here's the lesson here
Right.
of right from wrong. Those things are okay, but again, I barely trust pastors and priests today to interpret it correctly for me.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's the problem. And if you're paying for your child to go to a private school,
Hmm.
and I am all on board with that.
Right.
When you're going to a public school, and that's what the Jewish rabbi was saying,
Hmm.
there's a lot of uh, stories that can be told from the Torah
Hmm.
and from our point of view that talk about morals and
Right.
values.
Right.
So but this is predominantly Christian. And so that's where, if you're going to put it in, and that's what they were saying, if you're going to put it
Yeah.
in from a historical perspective, let's do it correctly and let's provide, eh, the values, beliefs, the good, honest values, beliefs, and behaviors from all different perspectives of religion,
Right.
not just the Christian, unless you're sending your kid to a Christian school. That's a whole
Right.
different story.
Yeah.
So we're in interesting times, and I think we've got to continue to step up and expose. And I tell people, your number one job is to protect your own child.
Hmm.
And what that looks like for you is going to be different than it looks like for me, because what my children's education choices are different than yours.
Yeah.
If people can homeschool, you need to homeschool.
Yeah.
Because they're all after our children.
Right. Until they, which we've gotten
Yeah.
into, until they accept the dollars, they get and then there's strings attached. That's where the devil is in the
Yes.
details. And now your homeschool is subject to the whims of the state.
State control.
I
Yes.
appreciate
And
you.
if you're a homeschooler,
Mm,
do not take any state-owned curriculum.
right. Right.
Don't do it.
But it's state led, Alice. I know.
Uh,
I know. God bless you, my friend, and thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
service to our country. I appreciate you tremendously, and the people of Texas who are waking up to this, because I've seen it time and again where people are, I'm sure you have these aha moments with people, which is awesome. So more and more
Awesome.
people are
Yes.
waking up to the devil in the details, and thank you so much for exposing the devil's schemes.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to reach an audience. I appreciate it. And we'll just
Absolutely.
keep working it day after day.
All right. God bless you, my friend.
God bless you. Bye-bye.
This segment brought to you by the Remembrance Project, theremembranceproject.org.